Okay. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Dan Dharmika Giri Hari Shri Shri Radha Govinda Radha Vinodi Hari Ram Mohan Radha Krishna Krishna Radha Rama Ram Ki Jai Jai Nitya Vishnu Vishnu Parashto Krishna Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shukha Jai Jai Om Vishnu Parashto Krishna Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Raj ki Jai. Om Shai Om Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Om Jhanati Narandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuramitam Jena Tasmai Sri Guruvai Namaha Guruvai Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Kudalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravajantam Anubheta Advaita Vrityam Lapayano Varahakata Kukriti Tanmai Taya Tarabodhi Yadustam Sabhutam Hridayam Ulimana Tasmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaivanarottamam Devam Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayam Vinayat Bhaktavihina Parada Lakshaya Kikashta Kamari Tarangamage Vipamai Tvam Sharanam Tapanha Vinde Namaste Charanam Tavevasmi Namajivani Tvayamina Iti Vidyaya Radhe Tvam Nayanam Charanamite Vancha Kalpatarivascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanam So we begin by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nitya Vishnu, Om Vishnu Padasto, Tarsat Sri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Mahashri Prabhupada, and Sri Guru Pada Padma Nitya Vishnu, Om Vishnu Padasto, Tarsat Sri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Mahashri, under our exalted Rupa Anuga Guru Varga, and the Sangha Vaishnavas Vaishnavis. Okay, so here we are. It's today's Saturday, huh? Saturday. All right. Just what? A few more days until celebrating the Divine Appearance Day of Sri Ramachandra, Wednesday.
17th, I think.
17th? What's it, 13th today?
Today.
Yeah, 13th.
Yeah. So,
Thursday.
it's good preparation. So there's always what to speak about, right? Unlimited topics, limited time. And even if we narrow on a topic, still it's unlimited. Like this book right here, it's called Sri Bajana Rahasya. It's a series of verses compiled by Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one of our great acharyas, the Guru and Shiksha Guru and father of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, who established the modern version of the movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with the Gaudiya Math, the model of which was established by our Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who established it all over the Western world, following that example. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur historically is known as the seventh Goswami. What does that mean? When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this world, 550 years ago, when he had established his teaching mission, he especially taught and empowered 6 personalities who were ordered to live in Vrindavan. Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, and Sri Raghunath Das Goswami. And they were, having been taught personally by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were all instructed to reveal his teachings through their writings, through their personal lives, to establish temples, and to reclaim or rediscover the lost pastime places of Sri Krishna. And so they did this in a very impressive fashion. At that time, 550 years ago, pretty much everything about Krishna's Leela had been, if not completely forgotten in time, completely misunderstood and misconstrued. And it was relegated to perhaps some exaggerated historical personality or something licentious that was performed and imitated by unscrupulous people under the guise of spirituality. But Mahaprabhu established the divine nature of Krishna Lila, he's actually Krishna himself, and explained how Krishna's pastimes were meant to give a window to all of us about the nature of the topmost spiritual environment, the topmost spiritual realm. The spiritual realm is variegated. Just like this world is variegated, there are places of extraordinary poverty and places of extraordinary wealth, places of beautiful climate, places of horrible climate. We're in one of them right now, I think. It used to be beautiful here. Remember what it used to be like in Bangalore, the city of trees and lakes, the air-conditioned city? Not anymore. Demons have ruined it. Building these kind of places. Cramming us all in like bees in a beehive. Anyway, so Mahaprabhu, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is Krishna himself, who came to reveal the transcendental nature of Krishna's pastimes and how they were an exhibition of his divine Leela. And by studying, hearing about that, hearing from self-realized souls, reading and attempting to follow in the footsteps of these great personalities, we can also achieve that same position. And the secrets of all of that were kept in the various Vedic literatures, but specifically and most completely and purely in the Bhagavad Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is what Mahaprabhu taught and his 6 main disciples elaborated on. But in the ensuing few hundred years after they had appeared, again there was some decline in the practice and understanding of these teachings. So, in the middle 1800s, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had appeared, he was born around 1836, I believe, at the height of the British Raj, right, in India, which had its benefits and also its great misfortune. The benefit was that then India was no longer under the thumb of the destructive Mughal Empire, but then they were under the thumb of the much more subtly destructive English Empire, who sought to destroy not only the people on an economic basis, but the culture of India, by educating everyone in the Western world. So at that time, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur appeared and was a highly educated individual. And actually, he was a special emissary from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Just like the 6 Goswamis were sent to write literature, discover the lost pastime places, show by example how to live a pure and spiritual life, Bhaktivinoda Thakur practically single-handedly in the 19th century did those same things. The entire Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition had fallen into disrepute. The literatures were lost and scattered somehow or other during his lifetime, even though his job was as a top magistrate in the British government. He traveled all over India collecting manuscripts and writing and describing the truths of this Vedic literature and reestablishing the deeper esoteric meanings. And he wrote about the process of devotion as taught by Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he wrote over 1,000 songs in 6 different languages. Some of those songs we were singing by the medium of songs, just as our previous acharyas have done. He taught in simple Bengali language and sometimes Sanskrit the beautiful truths of bhakti, the beautiful practice of bhakti from A to Z. He wrote from the in beautiful songs how to develop and practice in the very beginning stages, all the way up to his pure, special, secret, hidden realizations of his own spiritual visions. Now, this book, Sri Bajana Rahasya, is one of his 100 literatures that he wrote, and it describes in extraordinary step-by-step way the process of bhajan, the process of sadhana in the modern Kali Yuga. Because in different times in human history, there are different processes for perfection. But we are living in the Kali Yuga. In the Kali Yuga, the Iron Age, the age of misfortune, is when humanity is beset with so many problems, so many deficiencies. Payanalpaya saksabhyakalavmasmin yudejana manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya ipaduritaha. That in this age of Kali, we have but short lives. Right? In previous ages, you read the histories, not just in Vedic literature, but even in biblical literature, anecdotal tales from traditional cultures, indigenous cultures, of people living very long lives, thousands of years, and possessed of much greater intelligence, much greater memory, much greater capacity. The Greeks certainly knew about that, other cultures as well. But in the Kali Yuga, we live short lives, and we're beset with so many distractions and problems. Just to make a living is so difficult. It used to be you could live in your little village, and generations of your family and your friends' families all lived there together. The temple was the center of town. Religiosity was the guiding moral principle. Life was simple, but life was happy. I don't know if any of you ever grew up in that kind of environment, but very, very nice, very appropriate. But with the coming of Kali Yuga, this Iron Age, now everybody works so hard and so little time. And we don't have strong intelligence. We have short lives. And this culture makes us always disturbed. Like, just to get here, how long did it take all of you to get here? It took us about an hour and a half. Pulled out of our little subdivision, our layout. Oh, they decided they're going to build a new road, and so they closed our road off. Oh, you can go on that path over there. Some old goat cow path. So half an hour, following in the dust of all the trucks and everybody else is going that way. Then, all right, we're finally out into the main town, sort of, nearing Vartur. Oh, there's a BJP political rally. Motorcycles and trucks and lorries and everything everywhere. And stopped. There's a guy with a bicycle carting his wares to the market who outpaced us. He was walking his bicycle, and he was so far ahead of us. We just kind of, Anyway, we finally made it. And I'm sure all of you had a similar kind of experience. It's not like it used to be, right? Not like it used to be. We just hop on the old ox cart and sedately move on down, a kilometer or so, and that's all you needed to do. So, what do we do in this age? How do we achieve happiness? Well, scriptures are still relevant. Right? Even though we're in the age of Kali, they give guidance for us in this age. And in some ways, the Kali Yuga is a very good time to be born. Because on the one hand, there's no ambiguity. There's no thinking, oh, I'm living in a wonderful environment. I'm not suffering at all. Right? Like in Dwapara Yuga, lifespan of 100,000 years, beautiful conditions on the planet, clear streams, beautiful air, fruits and flowers everywhere. You read these descriptions. And then Treta, Dwapara, still marvelous conditions. But in the Kali Yuga, no such confusion. This is a tough place. I don't know that I can really enjoy here. And still yet, I try. But if we become awakened a little bit by the teachings of the scripture, but not just that. It's not enough to read about this, but you have to have the association, if even only for a moment, of someone who is fixed in this realization, someone who's experienced it and lived it, and whose words have power, right? Whose words can go into your heart, through your ears, into your heart, and awaken that sleeping soul. Because that's who we are. We're not just, this is just a covering. But it's a very clever covering. It's so effective that even though intellectually we may understand that we're not this body, emotionally we are convinced that we're this body. We're always trying to protect it. We're always trying to make it as comfortable and happy as possible. And we've been trained like that since the beginning of our sojourn into this world for countless, millions, billions of lifetimes. We've been in this cycle of birth and death. Higher planets, lower planets, wonderful species of life, horrible species of life, up and down, in and out. But back to the point about associating with that powerful person. Mande Brahmikakon Bhagavana Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhaktivinoda. That in that time, wandering through so many planetary systems, so many species of life, it may be that one has the opportunity to associate, even briefly, for a moment, with a great self-realized soul. That can change your life. Because in that moment, that personality can give you the seed of bhakti. What does the seed of bhakti mean? It means the awakening to the idea that I have a much greater prospect in my life. That is this all there is? If this were all there was, we'd all be jumping off the buildings, because this is it's just an unhappy environment. But we don't jump off buildings. Why? Even in the midst of misery? Because that soul has the instinctive idea that I'm an eternal being. I don't want to die. I can't die. But the eternality and the qualities of the soul are hidden from us. So it's like a person who's sleeping and there's a fire in the house. Right? What do you do to wake them up? They're deeply sleeping. You call them. Oh! Wake up! The fire! And then, huh? Oh. And so that's what is recommended in this age. Right? That in this age, there are so many difficulties. But the simple method in the Kali Yuga for self-realization, for perfection, for happiness, is the chanting of the holy names. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote this book about that. And he based it on 8 verses compiled by Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, called his Sikshastakam. Mahaprabhu himself did not write anything during his time here except these 8 verses. And in those 8 verses are condensed, they're like aphorisms, beautiful aphorisms in which all Vedic truths, everything is contained. And so there are 8 chapters in this book. Each chapter contains verses relating to the theme of each chapter, and each chapter is related to one of those 8 successful verses. And it takes us through the process of sadhana or bhajan, which has these 8 stages, but it also, for the enlightened and self-realized persons, those same verses can evoke a much deeper experience. For us, it's meant to guide us in our gradual evolution of bhakti. But for people who are already on a high level and tasting spirituality, these verses will awaken inner vision. About what? About Krishna's pastimes in the 8 parts of the day. Ashta Kaliya Lila. Right? That's very high. So each chapter talks about that level of sadhana and also those kinds of pastimes. So the way it's arranged is that Bhaktivinoda Thakur's verses are there, and then there's commentary provided by Nitya Lila Bhavishta Om Vishnupad Astotam Satsusimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami. And this is the remarkable gift in the Kali Yuga. My Guru Maharaj, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, in the very first recording that he made for public distribution, was in 1966. His disciples had taken him to a record studio. Now, I'll bet most of you don't know what records are, but in the old days, when you wanted to record music, you had this cool black disc about this round and this big, and you put it on a player, and you had a little handle, and it would spin around, and it would give out recording. Then they had tape recorders. Now they got the CDs, DVDs, and now everything is completely digital with little sticky things in, memory chips. But records. And this was like the state-of-the-art way to convey the spoken word to others. And they made a record. And it was all different kinds of chanting. But in the beginning of it, Srila Prabhupada gave a speech. And he gave a speech about the chanting of Hare Krishna and the writing of books. And he said, Lord Chaitanya has instructed his disciples to write books, a task that those who follow him continue down to the present day. Because the expositions and elaborations on the philosophy taught by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are the most exhaustive, elaborate of any religious teachings in the world. So, from the time of Mahaprabhu down to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, down to the present day, these acharyas have come to us in the form of their literature. There's a nice verse in the Bhagavad Purana in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto. Nasta praye sabhadareshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavad uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati nastati. By regularly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam or literatures like Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that's inauspicious in the heart, in other words, all the ignorance that is covering our pure soul, is eradicated. And one becomes established or fixed in realization and in bhakti. So in his commentary on that verse, Srila Prabhupada writes that this Nasta Paryesh Svabhadareshu, this Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, to serve the Bhagavat means to serve the person, the self-realized soul, and the book. Right? And he says either one of them is sufficient for self-realization. Right? By reading the book Bhagavat and by serving the person Bhagavat. However, he says, they're interdependent. In order to understand the book, you have to take guidance from the person, from the servant. Right? As we read that song. I am offering my respects to the servant of the servant of the servant of Mahaprabhu. So you render service to that great personality, and then by that service, realization comes. Right? What does Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna say? He says, Tadvadi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshana. Approach a self-realized soul. Inquire submissively. Right? Approach with humility, inquiring submissively. Render service. The self-realized soul will impart knowledge because he's seen the truth. Rupa Goswami says, Guru Pada Shaya Diksha, Guru Sevan Sat Dharma Shiksha Priksha Sadhu Madhuru Kama. That the beginning is hearing from, developing faith in great self-realized personality. When that faith matures and becomes stronger, you take initiation, become a disciple. When you become a disciple, you render service, Guru Sevan. And then when you render service, you also make inquiry. What does this mean? What does that mean? How do I do this? How do I better myself? I have a doubt about this point. I need clarification. Curiosity. Even some objection. Oh, I can't believe that. But in a submissive way. Like Krishna says, inquire submissively. And then studying and analyzing and following in the footsteps, sadhu maganugamam, of the great acharyas from the past, right? And living acharyas as well. Bhishmadev says that also in the Mahabharata, where he says that there are many different meanings of the scripture. You can become very bewildered by studying scripture, and by your own analysis, you may make some mistake. So he said the only way to be really sure about what to do and what not to do, Mahajana Yenakata Sapanta. You follow in the path of the previous acharyas. So, back to this book. This is an elaborate description of quotes and guidance that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has compiled and arranged to show us step by step the process of devotion. Now, to read this book out loud and discuss it takes a few months. We've done this in class, and to do a class for an hour and 20 minutes a day, it takes that long. Right? It takes maybe 3 months. And so, we have maybe another half hour or so. So we're just going to touch. Like Mahaprabhu told Rupa Goswami, the science of bhakti, the knowledge of bhakti, of devotion, it's like an unlimited ocean. I can't describe all that to you, but I can give you but a drop. And in the same way, like an ant, what can an ant know about a rasgulla, right? Ant's a little tiny thing like that. Rasgulla is big compared to the ant, but the ant can take a little drop of that juice. And from that juice, you can understand a little bit about what a rasgulla is. So we can understand a little bit. We can touch on a couple of points, right? And it's meant to just give us some immediate benefit, because whatever we hear is going to enter in our heart and cleanse and purify and inspire, but also hopefully create some little bit of eagerness to look deeper and more. Not just once every 6 months, they have a house program. Oh, let's go. I'll have a nice meal. It's Saturday. I won't have to cook. That's what happens on Sunday. They get people at their house twice a month. But many of the guests say, but you must make puris and sabji and blah, blah, blah. They make demands, So they do it just to bring people so they can have hearts. The first chapter. I'm going to 1:30, huh? Yeah. First chapter begins. Now for us, in the stage of our beginning, this chapter talks about faith, about the first stage of development of bhakti, which is faith. Not blind faith, but faith based on, experience, accumulated knowledge, association with realized persons. And he begins by explaining a very famous verse, actually. It's from the Srila Bhagavatam. Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishnam Sangopangashtra Parshadam Yadnai Sankirtana Prayar Vijantihi Sumedasaha. This is this verse is from, I'll read the translation. Oh, I read a different one. There's one from the Bhagavatam. That's 11th canto. This is, which I quoted, I wasn't even looking. This is another verse. Yagnai Sankirtana Prayar Bajami Kali Pavana. I worship Sri Gaurangadev, who delivers the living entities of Kali Yuga, Kali Pavana, through the congregational chanting of the Lord's holy names. Nam Sankirtan Yam. He describes the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Krishna. He performs kirtan of the two syllables, kir and sna. His complexion is fair. He is surrounded by his angas, his associates, and his upangas, servitors like Srivas, Pandit, other pure devotees, and Parshadas, confidential companions like Sri Damodar, Sri Ramananda Roy, Sri Gadadhar Pandit, 6 Goswamis. And he is endowed with his weapon, Astra, of Harinam, which destroys ignorance. So in the age of previous ages, the Lord would come as an avatar, right? What is it? Paritranaya sadhunam yinachaya chadiskatam dharma samsthapanartaya sambhavani day. He comes age after age, millennium after millennium, to establish religious principles. But in most millennia, he comes to kill the demons, right? To eliminate the demoniac forces by force, like Lord Ram. He wasn't walking around encouraging people to change their way. He didn't have a sit down with Ravan. He went and destroyed Ravan with his arrows and all the demons. Parshuram, right? Varaha, Nrsingadev. When demons become very strong, very powerful, and threaten the well-being of the earth and all innocent people, the Lord comes and removes them from the planet by the strength of his astras, his weapons, his arms, swords, arrows, clubs. And it's quite lovely to read about, very exciting to hear those pastimes. But Lord Chaitanya, he also came to destroy the demons, but he did something extraordinary. When he came, he destroyed the demoniac mentality. And rather than killing them, killed the demon mentality within and actually gave them the highest stages of spiritual perfection. He gave them love of God. Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurati Namaha. That you are the most merciful of all the incarnations because you're giving what no other incarnation has ever given, freely, love of God, which normally is a very rare thing. And this is his intent. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur begins by that, and there's a lot of verses here from so many literatures supporting that. But this is an overview. So then he goes on to explain that, just to explain how extraordinary it is that we live in this Kali Yuga. He quotes Vishnu Rahasya. Yad apyarchya harim bhaktya Krite kratu shatayrapi palam prapnot yavikalam kalo govinda kirtanat. Whatever fruit can be attained in such a yuga by devoutly performing austerities and so on for hundreds of years can be obtained in the age of Kali simply by chanting the names of Sri Govinda, Kalo Govinda Kirtanat. Satya Juge Shakta Shakta Yadye Hayat Charan, Kalite Govinda Name Se Pala Arjana. The result, received in Satya Yuga by meditation on Bhagavan, in Treta Yuga by worshipping Bhagavan through great sacrifice, and in Dwapara Yuga by performing Archana of Bhagavan, according to proper rules, is obtained in Kali Yuga simply by chanting Namabhas, a semblance of Sri Krishna's names. So you've read these different kinds of procedures. In the Satya Yuga, where lifespan is very long, what would they have to do? Very, very difficult meditation. In the mountains, in the caves, in the forest, sitting alone, undisturbed, controlling the breath, not even eating or drinking, meditating for sometimes hundreds, even thousands of years at a time, without disturbance, withdrawing the senses from all external engagement until finally you can perceive the soul within your own self and Paramatma, the soul accompanying, the form of God accompanies every living being. Seeing the two together. And that meditation may take lifetimes of that in such a yuga. In the Treta Yuga, he's saying that they were doing incredible sacrifice, yajna. Nowadays, you see yajna. In South India, they do it more. We still got some Sri Vaishnavas who know mantras, and here we call them homa, right?
Yeah.
And you open up a house. We do it here. And you open up a house, you light a little fire. They chant some mantras, like that, different things. But that's only a dim reflection of what was actually done in previous times. The brahmanas of the previous ages were so perfectly trained in the recitation of Vedic mantra that these mantras could actually change the environment. You could light a fire. You could create rain. Even the Kshatriyas could empower weapons of mantra. And by chanting these properly, with the yajna, the Lord would appear in the sacrificial fire. He would descend and appear in the fire. On the higher planetary systems, that system is still performed now. They're qualified up in Tapalok, Ganalok, Mahalok. They can do that. This is described in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. But on Earth, we no longer have that capability to chant mantras like that. And it's a good thing we don't in the Kali Yuga, because you recall that sometimes brahmanas, in order to correct even a king who had gone bad, would chant mantras, and then the king would be drawn and put into a fire and killed, or a big demon would be created, or a mantra would happen. Lord Shiva chanted mantra, threw his hair into the fire, gigantic demon, Virabhadra, came and killed Daka and all of his associates. Imagine if we had that power in the Kali Yuga with our uncontrolled minds and anger. You didn't do the dishes! I told you to do the dishes! Oh no, I killed my husband. Oh, why did I do that? We shouldn't have that power. You gave my son what grade? I saw him working so hard. The whole world would be destroyed. It couldn't happen. So Dwapara Yuga, they did very elaborate worship of the deity on the altar. Not like nowadays. No, we still do that. And by sincere prayer and worship with genuine emotion, there's benefit there. But again, in previous ages, they worshipped with such incredible detail and wealth. The wealth required to do that kind of worship, gold and jewels and all kinds of things, the quality of the foodstuffs and everything, we can't replicate that. But in Kali Yuga, we can chant. We can chant the names of God. And very, very, very powerful. And that will produce results of all of these other systems that we're actually not qualified for. And so, in fact, demigods and great sages who live through all these different eras, they wait for the Kali Yuga because there's special dispensation on this planet. And when Mahaprabhu appeared, he not only came to give general love of God, in this age, which happens only once in a day of Brahma, just as Krishna only appears once in a whole day of Lord Brahma, once, and if you include his night, that cycle of ages is 9 billion years. Right? Because one yuga cycle, Satya, Dwapara, Treta, and Kali, all combined, is about 4.5 million years. And 100 of those equals 1 day of Lord Brahma. So, altogether that's about 9 billion years. And so once in 9 billion years on this earth, Krishna himself will appear in his original form. And once in that same time, he comes just after that, appearing as his own devotee in the mood of devotion to teach the process of Harinam in the most extraordinary way. Harinama, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, 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 Bhaktivinoda. In the Kali Yuga, there's no other way than chanting the holy names of the Lord, chanting the holy names of the Lord, chanting the holy names of the Lord. This verse repeats this 3 times each. So, then, later on, he describes, explains to us what are the stages of devotion. Okay, so the chanting of the holy name is meant to perfect us in our bhakti. But what do we go through? What are the different steps? We talked about that verse, Guru Padashraya Diksha, Guru Sevan, right? Where you develop faith and then you serve Guru and then make inquiry, all like that. But as you do this, this is what happens. Adau Shraddha Tata Sadhu, Sangota Bhajana Kriya, Tato Narta Nirvritti Syat, Tato Nishta Ruchistata, Ata Saktistato Bhavas, Tata Prema Judanchati, Sadakana Mayam Premna, Prabhur Bhave, Prabhur Bhave Bhavet Krama. This is the gradual development of devotion. First, over many lifetimes, you develop a special kind of sukriti. We generally translate sukriti as pious merit, right? You do a good deed, you get sukriti, and that results in good karma. You do a bad deed, that's dusukriti, and then you get unfortunate results, like disease, injury, horrible things that happen to you. So, bad birth. But there's another kind of sukriti. And that sukriti, bhakti, posada sukriti, that kind of sukriti, means that you've done a good deed in relationship to a great devotee or to acts of devotion. See, the Indian culture at one time was set up under the guidance of Varna and Ashram. Varna, Ashram, Dharma. Right? Rules and regulations of duty that governed everybody in society according to their position in life. If you're a worker, this is what your duties are, and these are your religious obligations. These are your obligations to others. If you're an entrepreneur, then you have more responsibility, not just to yourself and your family and all, but to others, to support them, to support the king, to support the brahmanas, to support students, with your wealth. If you're a kshatriya or a king, you have even more responsibility to protect the citizens, to uphold the dharma for everyone, and to take guidance from high-class priests, brahmanas. And if you're a brahmana, you have the responsibility to dedicate your life to self-realization, to live a life of simplicity and detachment so that you can give completely clear and pure advice to everybody on spiritual matters. Brahmana is not supposed to be enriched, and accumulate wealth, because then they're not unbiased in their decision making. They're influenced by their own self-interest. But nowadays, so-called ministers, they have their own agenda. The people that surround the king, surround the chief minister, surround the president, they all have their own motivation. And that influences their advice. Nothing is given purely for the welfare of the people. It's for the welfare of a select group of people. This is Kali Yuga. But real brahmanas, based on religious principles, and devoid of self-interest, personal selfish interest, they give that kind of advice. So that kind of culture, that kind of society, right? So if in that society, by doing what's considered ordinary pious acts, you're gradually elevated from lower birth to higher, higher, higher. You may spend many lifetimes. You start out maybe as a worker, and then you become a wealthy Vaishya, then you may become a king. And if you're a very pious and proper king, you may become a brahmana, right? But in the course of performing that pious activity, rather than just interacting with people, ordinary people, if that act of charity that you perform, inviting a guest into the house, giving them some water, feeding them a meal, digging a well for walkers coming by in the village, planting a tree for giving shade. If a self-realized personality takes advantage of that, it's not ordinary Sukriti anymore. It becomes Bhakti Sukriti. And if you receive such a person in your house, give them some milk, give them some food, then you get a special kind of Sukriti. And over many lifetimes, that kind of Sukriti builds up. And then all of a sudden, rather than just being interested in material progress, you have a change of heart. And then you get more opportunity to associate with those special kind of people that you served before. The topmost example of that would be Narad Muni. When Narad Muni was a young boy, his mother was very poor. And she just worked in an ashram as a servant for the sages, yogis in the ashram. And he was very, very young, and he would assist them. He would bring them water, wash their clothes, and sometimes he would also listen to their discourses. He was very obedient, good boy, but very low birth. And the sages were kindly disposed to him. And because of his mood, they would sometimes even give him remnants of their own food, the Mahaprasad. And they would speak to him and give him instruction. Very powerful. And he found himself, even in a young age, developing different kinds of feelings, like detachment from the world around him. All because of this association and his mood of service, this special kind of Sukriti. It happened very quickly for him in this way. And by providence, his mother had an unfortunate accident and died from a snake bite. And the sages had left, Chaturmasya, the rainy season was all over, and so he felt, I'm going to go to the forest and do meditation. And he left. He developed powerful feelings. And because of the mercy of these great persons, his Shraddha, his faith was so strong that he went off to do this. And then you go through the different stages. Ado Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha, okay. Faith, Sadhu Sangha means ongoing association like he had. Bhajana Kriya means on the instruction of those sages, maybe they've given you diksha, or maybe they've just given you instruction, but you're following it. And what happens from that, that is spiritual activity, anartha nivriti. Anartha, that is the impurity in the heart. Another name for it is obstacles. You know, those things that are unfavorable for your practice of bhakti. Like right now, we have so many anarthas, our attachments, our distractions in our world. All right, tomorrow, or no, Monday, I'm just going to dedicate myself to practicing bhakti. Oh, but I can't. I got to go to my job. I got to make money. I got to make breakfast for my grandkids. I got to pay the rent. I don't feel like it. I want to sleep in. I want to go to the movies. We got so many other kinds of situations and desires which distract us, right? These are due to anarthas, impurities in the heart. We don't see ourselves as pure spirit souls with one-pointed goals, right? So, but by doing bhajana kriya, if you act under the order of Sri Guru, that activity is spiritual. And in the beginning, you may not be able to do it all the time. Well, what can I do? Well, I can chant. I can read when I get up in the morning. I'm pretty busy today, but the first thing I do every morning, I'm going to read 2 shlokas from Bhagavad Gita on the commentary. And I'm going to chant 1 round of Hare Krishna. Or 5 names. But I'm going to do it every day. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I'm going to do it with faith. I'm going to pray really hard, just this one time, and I'm going to read 1 verse. And I'm going to do that every single day. That's actually quite powerful. It may seem insignificant in relationship to the whole day. It may have taken you a minute out of 24 times 60 minutes in a day. Nevertheless, it's very powerful. And if you do that every day with faith, then gradually anarthas become removed, your faith gets stronger, more purified, your determination increases as your attachments and distractions decrease, and you become nishta, tato nishta. You become steady, more and more steady, and your devotional activity begins to outweigh your material activity. And then the quality of your chanting also improves. There's 3 stages of chanting. The first stage is namaparad, where you don't know the nature of Krishna Nam. You have some misconceptions. And actually, you may have a faulty, envious mentality about Sri Nam. And there are 10 of these offenses, which you can study. But the most dangerous of them is to insult or to harm great souls. Right? Sadhu Ninda, Vaishnava Ninda, criticize, try to harm great personalities. And then there are others progressively that are there. But if you, with a sincere heart, okay, my heart is impure, I regret committing these offenses. I wish I could chant without committing offenses. I have some remorse, and I'm studying, I'm trying to overcome them. We may gradually come to a stage of what's called nam abhas. Abhas means a semblance or a shadow. So it's not pure nam, it's not the pure transcendental holy name, but it's like a shadow, like if you see a tree, right? And the sunlight is shining on the tree, and the tree casts a shadow. Now the shadow, it doesn't have any fragrance, it doesn't have any color, it doesn't have 3 dimensions. But if you know what a tree is, you can say, oh, that's a shadow of a tree. but it has some connection with the tree. Some connection is there, because shadow is always connected to its source, right? So Namavas is like a shadow, a semblance of the pure name. And if that's chanted with humility and determination, it can be extraordinarily powerful. It can give all material benefits. If you want benefits in this material world, you can get them by chanting the holy name, you know. But these are so insignificant. But when you chant Namavas regularly, with the desire to go higher, then even more quickly the anarthas and impurities in your heart will go. And the quality of your Namavas improves more and more. Less Namaparad, more and more pure name, more and more Namavas. Finally, no more Namaparad. And then one day, one pure name might come. Srila, the real holy name. Right? That name which is descended from the spiritual world. Golokera Premadana Harinama Sankirtan. The name of Krishna is transcendental to everything material. It is non-different. Nama Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shudo Nitya Mukto Bina Bandhamanami. The holy name is non-different from Krishna. Krishna's name is like a Chintamani gem, but a spiritual one. You know a Chintamani, a touchstone. It's that special stone, which is purported, whatever you touch it to, whatever you wish, it will produce. It can transform anything you touch it to gold or anything else you like. Such stones have existed in the history of the world. They're all hidden now. But Krishna's name is like a spiritual Chintamani. And when that pure name is chanted, it transforms the materially contaminated heart into a pure heart. Nama Chintamani Krishnas. Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. The name of Krishna is fully conscious, and it's the very form of all transcendental pleasure. Rasa, mellow, taste. Purna, it's complete. Shuddha, absolutely pure. Nityamukta, eternal. Vinad Bandhamanamino. It's not different from Krishna himself. If we chant that name, then our whole life transforms. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in Jaiva Dharma that once you chant that pure name one time, all prarabdha karma, all material conditioning, everything is finished. And from the second chanting, love of God comes. Prema. Does that mean full-blown prema? No, because prema is always increasing. But it's the beginning of prema in the most extraordinary way. Shuddha sattva visheshatma prema suryangsa samyavat uchivishchitramasranyo krid asal bhava uchite. And what happens is Shuddha sattva visheshatma. That means, Shuddha sattva means, combined with visheshatma, it means the combination of the pure samvit shakti and ladini shakti, those energies of the spiritual world, that cognizant potency, the knowledge of who am I as a spirit soul, who is God, what is our relationship, what is my service, that's samvit. Ladini is pure love, pleasure-giving potency. Those two combined, this is the essence of bhakti. When that blooms in the heart by that chanting of that name, then by the mercy of Sri Guru, this enters the heart, and the heart becomes softened. And then rather than chasing after everything materially, there's no more interest in any of that. It just becomes insignificant. And what you have? You become softened by three tastes. Abhilas is a taste or a desire. And the first one is anukul abhilas. I want to do everything favorable for Krishna. Krishna and Radha are my most beloved. I just want to do everything for them. That's easy to understand if you think about the best situation you have in this world. If it's someone you really, really love, then what's the difficulty? You always want to do something to make them happy, because that makes you happy. Right? It's not pure in this world, but we have a glimmering of that. That's why you got a little baby and you got like 20 mothers sitting around trying to make the kid smile, and then the kid smiles and they all go, ah! Right? You make somebody happy, then you become happy. So Anukula Abhilash means that pure spiritual sentiment where all I want to do selflessly is please God and Krishna. And I say selflessly because pure love is selfless. And in this world, we have expectation in our giving, in our love. We require reciprocation. If we don't get reciprocation, our love burns out. Right? We become disappointed, disillusioned, angry. Right? It's one-sided. But in the spiritual world, the more you love, the more you want to give selflessly. But the object of your love, we're Ashraya, we're the reservoir of love, but the object of our love is Krishna. He's Vishnu. But for Krishna, he feels himself to be the reservoir of love, and we're the Vishaya of him. And he wants to reciprocate with us. And so in pure spiritual love, Krishna is always attempting to please his devotees, and his devotees are always attempting to please him. And there's an ever-increasing spiral of pure, loving competition, each trying to make the other more and more happy. And ironically, even though devotees don't seek happiness, because they're selfless, the more they serve, the happier they become. So, Anandam Buddhivardhanam, Pratipadam Purnamritas Bhadanam, Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. This ocean of transcendental bliss and chanting this holy name, it's like this ever-increasing ananda at every step. And every experience is like a bath of pure nectar. Right? Ruchi, chanting that pure name for the first time. This is the beginning of that. Then he says, asakti. Ruchi means, for the first time, I begin to develop this extraordinary taste, and all the things before I just did by duty. All right, I got to get up and chant my rounds. Oh my God, is this time already? I got to get up for Mangalarti. Oh, all right. Get up, take a shower. All right, get down there, you know. Up, time to sleep, time to clean, time to cook. Duty, must do my duty. That's the beginning of spiritual life. But as you become purified, you develop a taste for the activities. That's ruchi. My chanting of the holy name, I'm not doing it because I got to chant 16 rounds, I got to chant 32. What time is it? How much more do I have to go? No. Each uttering of the mantra becomes relishable. And it stimulates wonderful thoughts, memories of my guru, of the deities, of my seva, of what I read. All these wonderful things. Oh, it's just a joy. And that stage of ruchi matures. The attraction for bhajan. Asakti, the next stage, means maturity and attraction for the object of bhajan, where you begin to develop realization of the non-difference of Krishna and his name. And a deepening love for Radha and Krishna comes into the heart, and a deepening realization of your identity in the spiritual realm, and your attraction to particular devotees who serve in a particular way. All of a sudden, I become especially attracted to the activities of the cowherd boys. Those I want to hear. Or I really, really want to follow in the footsteps of Mother Yashoda and Nandamala. Or the Braja Devis. Oh, I'm so enchanted by them. I just want to be their dasi, their servant. This will begin to dawn in the heart, in the sakti, a deepening attachment to Krishna, a particular kind of service, under the guidance and in the footsteps of particular kinds of devotees. And when that ripens even further, it becomes bhav. Bhav is the awakening of spiritual emotion. It's like the ray of the sun. In the early morning, when the sun has not yet risen, but you see the rays of the sun coming over the horizon, the sun is just about to appear. The sun is praying, right? And the rays of the sun are like bhav. Prema Suryam Samyava, right? The rays of the sun are very beautiful, and everything's illuminated. But when the sun comes up, even more extraordinary experience, right? Everything's illuminated even more. The chill of the night is gone. Everything is beautiful when the sun comes up. And so the sun represents the full blossoming of the experience of praying itself. Fully developed love of God. But that doesn't happen when we have this material body. We can mature in bhav to an extraordinary degree where we realize our own eternal identity. We can serve mentally in meditation in that body. We can interact in an amazing way. But then, when we leave this body, then we may take a birth on Krishna's planet, wherever he is doing those pastimes, and then we perfect our service in pure prayer. Those are the stages, and that's what's inherent in Harinam. That's what we can get. So, you can think about that when you were chanting mechanically and, watching TV, reading a magazine, looking at a computer, Krishna. This is what we do sometimes. But if we have real taste, if we want the real thing, we want to focus. So give yourself that opportunity. Even a few moments every day, complete dedication and focus to that Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Puna Shuddha Nitya Mukto Vinadvan Nama Namana. That name. So whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, it's like exercise. We're all out of shape, right? Well, first day, I can only walk 100 paces. So I'm going to sit down. I can barely get up the steps. But okay, I'm going to keep at it. I'm going to lift these weights. I got 1 kg, 1 kg. Next day, a little bit more, a little bit further. Next day. After a month or two, good. After 6 months, running. After, a year, I'm in the Olympics. What is it? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with but a single step. So you start your bhajan, but you start it with knowledge of what the goal is, and with knowledge of the process. Knowledge of the process, sambandha. The application of the process is avideya. The knowledge of the goal is prayojan. Combine those and you'll be in the right place. We'll stop here. Get very far here. I had a whole different plan of what to talk about, but we have our plans. Krishna has his plans. Sometimes things work out differently. All right, so we'll do our teak. Unless there's any questions. But usually with my English, I know everybody's being polite and just kind of nodding, but I know I'm kind of hard to understand. When we were in our earlier preaching days, Kagadaspur, for instance, we could have these people coming, and they would confess that it took them at least 6 months before they could understand a word I was saying. American English is very different from English. I mean, most people in India understand English people very easily, but Americans we use slang, we say things in a different cadence. So I appreciate your being polite. All right. We do Arti?
Yeah.
Go Premanande.
Hari Bol.
Hi. We had to introduce Maharaj before he started his katha, but we could not do that. So let me introduce Shripad Maharaj. Maharaj's full name is Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaikanas Maharaj. Maharaj, he joined very early in around 1971. He accepted the shelter of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada in USA, America, and then he gave his life for the service of his Guru. And then he served in various capacities in ISKCON as well. He was even the temple president. And then he met our Gurudev, Vishnupada Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj in 1997. And then he again gave his life to another Mahapurush, to our Gurudev. And then upon the order of our Gurudev, Srila Maharaj accepted sannyas, and then he came to South India and then established temple here in Bangalore.
Not without the help of a lot of devotees, many of them sitting here.
Many of us have become devotees, and it's only because of Shripad Maharajji. We're all very indebted to him. And by the order of our Gurudev, he came here and started preaching in South India. It is only because of Maharaj and other senior devotees that we are able to do bhakti and we are able to continue in our spiritual life. So we are very, very fortunate to have the association of Maharajji, and we are really blessed. Thank you. Hare Krishna. One
thing I'll say about India here, when I was in New York, I go back to the U.S. now, spend most time there. But I went and occasionally I will visit my younger sister, who's very favorable when I'm traveling. And I've gone to her church. They're Episcopalian, which is kind of a descendant of the Catholics. And I attend their service, and I know their pastor, and I know a lot of their congregation, and I've had meetings with their members. But their services, they have a little singing, and they read a couple of their shlokas from the Bible. And the lecture, very short. I met their main pastor, and he's a very nice fellow, very educated person, knows so much. And their congregation, they're all educated people, wealthy people in that part of New York. But the lecture that they have is only like 15 or 20 minutes at the most. So after a couple of those, I went to him and I said, "Hey, Michael," Father Michael, right? Well, that's 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Come on, I want to hear something. He goes, "Well, that's all they can take. That's how it's standardized all over the world." I said, "Come on, you've got like 10 PhDs. You know everything about the Bible. Come on, this is a one chance a week, 15 minutes." Well, I said, when I'm in India, when we sit down on Sundays, sometimes we'll talk for 2 hours. And everyone just sits there and listens very happily. And every morning we give a class, at least an hour. So come on, don't cheat us. And he goes, "Oh, well, it's standardized all over the world. Everywhere in the world, they all do the exact same verses on that Sunday, and they give a very similar kind of speech." And that's what the difference is between the Gaudiya Vaishnavas and the rest of the world. We're really intent, and other Vaishnavas as well, but especially in our line, we're very eager to learn and study and absorb this philosophy and this kitab. Because, what is it? Satam prasangam mamavirya samvidam bhavanti hritkarna rasayana katha yajoshana rashva pavarga vartmani shraddha bhaktir bhaktir anukamishati. That when these great devotees speak, this transcendental subject, it's very pleasing to the ear. Gives great ras to the ear and the heart. And by that regular process, extraordinary transformation. First, deep shraddha, which evolves into transcendental faith. Then, rati, which is high class spiritual emotion, bhav. And then pure prema bhakti will come to the heart. So even though we are not of that level, of that satam, the great personality, but if we repeat what they have said under their guidance, then that potency comes. And if we hear, and if we're intent, and we're praying that, okay, let this transmission come into my heart, then it will. It will. So it's very good that we've all come here today for that purpose. All right. Here you go, Master. Ceremonies. And we thank Aseem and Sister Thakur for hosting this nice program, right? Very nice.
We are very grateful, Maharaj. You came from such a great distance from all the...
Right, came 12,000 miles just to be at your house.